Thanks for jumping in. Let us know what city and state you're from. Burton's from Orange County. I'm in Ventura County, LA County, borderline, Malibu, and it is cold for us. It's cold. I mean, we're in the 50s and 60s. It's freezing practically. We're dying. So we're not used to this much cold weather, but we appreciate it. Let me tell you, the rain has been great. For those of you who missed last week, we had Burton on here, PropStream, and he showed us his session and real estate content and I session were the most talked about. He showed us the back end of the power of what PropStream does. And I was blown away, man. I didn't know it did that many things. I feel like I can get this. And this can easily become a core component to everything that I do as far as real estate. If I need to look up people, if I need to look up geo farming, if I need to look up any type of information about any seller or owner of a home, dude, you guys have that. So thank you for showing us that. Today, everyone, we're going to be focused on finding sellers. We think that after the whole lawsuit that came down, it's a it's more apparent that it's a relationship based business. I mean, with the whole TCPA thing, even though it was pushed out to January 2026, right, as of last week, we just feel like everything is pushing it to more listings, more relationships. So, Burton, where do we start in getting more sellers when it comes to using your amazing tool?
That's a really good question. So let's share the tool really quick. Let me share my screen and then we can show you guys some best practices. There's some angles you could probably take. Hopefully it sparks ideas, whether you're using my platform or not. Hopefully the conversation we'll have will spark ideas for you guys. But this is PropStream here. So for the last 18 plus years, we started in 2006. We were acquired by Stewart Title in 2021, but our objective was our platform is what we call parcel centric. So it all starts with the parcel of the property. For example, I could zoom in on the map like Kansas and go to like Wichita right now. And as I zoom in, because we collect parcel data, you're going to see the parcels appear on the map, right? So everything starts there. That's like the bread of the sandwich, the sandwich in this case being our data. So we had to get the bread first, that's the parcels. And then we're able to fill in all the informations within the parcel. And so you can click on any parcel, or you could take an address and just search it in the address bar. But the first thing that we had to do is gather all that detail and put it together. And there's a reason for that because that's going to help you with the lead generation, the filtering process, right? So when you search an address, you'll see things like the owner's name, property characteristics. We do have nationwide MLS data, so you can use PropStream to run comps using public records or MLS records to look at rental properties or properties that sold on market. We have demographics. What's unique to our demographics is it's within 1 mile of the subject property. It's not the cities or the zip code, it's 1 mile. And what I like about it is it breaks down things like how many owners versus renters around that property. And as an agent, what
Oh,
we're seeing people use this for is literally they're going down their whole listings that they have, searching address one at a time, seeing the breakdown in that radius, right? So if you type in one of your listings right now and it says, oh, hey, there's 58% renters in this area, now your buyer is a landlord buyer because now a buyer is going to want that property in a high density renters environment because they're going to cash flow it
mm,
versus trying to find a fix and flip buyer. This area doesn't have a lot of people buying and living in this area. Now, if this was opposite, 80% owners, I would consider a fix and flipper buyer in this area because they're going to buy it, renovate it, make it look the nicest possible because someone's going to want to live in that area for as long as possible. But in this area, it's the opposite. There's more renters in this area. So why are you going to renovate your house to the full capacity if it's going to be rented out and within a year it could be destroyed by a tenant? That's why
yeah.
you want a landlord buyer who understands that, oh, I don't need to put this property at 100% in terms of condition. I can get it at 85% and rent it out and cash flow it and then find the next tenant and the next tenant and the next tenant, right? So what we're seeing is a lot of agents use just this part in the property details just to see the breakdown. And again, what happens here doesn't happen over here. So when we cross the street and go to this neighborhood, and we
Yeah.
click on this property here and we go into the details and then I go to, the Moore's demographics. Well, over here is a little bit less than over there in terms of renters. So both areas are still high renter areas, but you can see there's a slight percentage drop just heading eastward. So I want to highlight this because this is what makes PropStream different. We don't just buy data and fast forward it like most softwares out there do. We buy the data, we hygiene it, clean it up, and then we add our own algorithms to it. Like, hey, we love the demographics, but what if we can put it on every single parcel that we have instead? And this is what you get. You get the breakdown, income levels, education levels around that market, commute, very important stuff. Again, if you're an agent looking to promote a listing or trying to find a buyer for your listing. Another thing that we're very known for is our tax information, which allows us to take the tax bill address, reverse engineer it, and show you all their other properties under their name. So it looks like the Moores have two other properties under their name that you can see here. One's been owned for 4 years and 3 months, and one's been owned, looks like for a long time. We can't even calculate the ownership that they have here. So you could definitely see that this is one has been in their property for a long time. And another thing that we are very aggressive is the mortgage data. You can see here that they have a loan on the property, the loan type, the lender, loan amount, interest rates. So this is what we're known for. So if you're new and you're like, hey, I've heard about PropStream, but what is it that you guys do? Well, two things. We provide property details. So if you have a listing you want to analyze, or maybe you're on a conversation with a homeowner who's interested in selling their property, you can type in their address, and this is the information that we can provide.
Okay.
However, what the topic is today is the lead generation. I wanted to show you that because that's the hard work that we had to do first, which is grab all that separate data from everywhere, bring it together so that you can see whether it's a parcel or like who owns this side of the school. That side of the school is owned by the Board of Education. Well, what about the other side of the school? Who owns that? Like we also collect commercial data. A lot of people ask, is it just
Ah,
residential? No, it's all of it, right? So, and you can even see how many other locations the Board of Education has in this area as well, right? That's it's again what we do. We do it very differently than most, but the important is now that we've done all that hard work, you're able to use it for lead generation. So I saw in the chat someone said they were in Aurora, Colorado. Um, so I can go to Aurora, Colorado. I've never been here again. I'm from Southern California, and if I was a new agent today, well, I could do one of two things. I can either use PropStream's filtering menu to generate a motivated seller who probably will need to list their house because of their situation. Now, we have over 160 filters and 20 different lead lists that you can choose from. That's the first area that we
that's
send you to.
crazy.
And you can see things like pre-foreclosures, negative equity property, senior owners, deceased owners.
Burton,
This area, go ahead, Tristan.
if I just type in this any city there in the search bar,
Yeah.
this is what populates. So we have the lead list instantly.
Yes, well, you'll have to go to the filter menu right here. The first time you search an area, let's say
Yeah.
we go to Phoenix today, we'll give you the first 8 categories right here under the on top of the map itself. But the filter
Okay.
menu is definitely where you want to go. This is where you're going to see more categories and more filters to select from.
Oh, there you go.
Someone
Lead
asked
list.
what's the details of pre-probate versus probate. That's a really good question. So we don't have probate data. That's when they're in the process of probate. We actually don't collect that data. What we collect is what we call deceased owners. So our pre-probate are a list of addresses. Here's 386 of them in this market of Phoenix, where someone on the title is no longer with us. Rest in peace, Ramona. But as you can see, the second owner on this property is deceased. And so, again, you might call this property today, and they could be in probate. We don't collect that data, so they could be in probate, or they may not be in probate. And that owner could have been on the title for the last 4 years, deceased. This is a common thing that you'll see. You'll see deceased owners' names on titles for years and years. Again, the living kin or spouse, they don't necessarily need to remove the title or go into probate unless there's a sale, a refinance, a loan is taken out, then that procedure would need to be processed. But the reason I'm emphasizing that is these are not probate. Some of them could be in probate, and some of them could just be that way because again, they just haven't had a need to go through probate. So great question, Thomas. I like that question. What is pre-probate? That's our deceased owners. And to actually help you guys out here, let me do this because we do have 20 different options. There we go. On our main website, there's tons of resources like our free online course, help videos, and then what I'm about to put in the chat. This is our lead list definition. So if you're wondering things like what's pre-probate or what the zombie properties mean, by the way, those are pre-foreclosures that stop answering their mail. We also
Mhm.
said like tired landlords and stuff. So if you want to know what those are, feel free. But
Um,
that's the first area, by the way. That's our lead list. And this, what I like to think of this, the best analogy I can give you is this is like the traditional approach. Back in the day before all the technology, every one of us had to go to the county and grab our records, right? So we'd go to the tax assessor's office, grab those delinquencies, grab those cash transactions, those high equity properties, whatever list they had available, pre-foreclosures, and then take that home with us. And then who knows if they were on market or not, right? The only way to find out is either you were a realtor or you drove by the house and saw for sale sign because this was like the 80s, right? And then who knows if they had a mortgage? Nobody had that data. So you had to talk to the owner, and the owner would surprise you. Hey, yeah, we do have a mortgage, or no, we don't, right? So things were a lot different back in the days. Today, that process would have taken weeks just to find out that information. Today, I have the full control over it. I could say, look, I'm looking for someone who didn't pay their taxes. Why? Because you're either going to lose your home, pay your taxes, and get off this list, or maybe it's now time to list your property. So when I'm looking for a seller, I'm not looking for a high equity property. Why? Because if I had a high equity property today, why would I list my property? Unless I needed to list my property. There are millions of people right now that have high equity property. They're never going to want to list their property. So you got to have to drive a motivated factor. And some of them are pretty obvious: pre-foreclosures, delinquencies, vacant, tired landlords. So just like in the traditional approach, they didn't just go grab a random list at the county. They grabbed a list that had some sort of financial distress behind it: pre-foreclosures, auctions, delinquencies, right? So pick a distress list. That's the traditional approach. And then the second step I would take, as a matter of fact, let's make this easy for everybody. I wrote down these steps for you. The traditional search goes like this. Okay. Pick a list. I'm choosing tax delinquency right now. Then make sure it's off market. Unless you want it on market. But I'm going to be honest with you, 9 out of 10 of our users are here for off market properties because they're trying to
yeah,
get that property as a listing for them, right?
right.
I want that homeowner under contract with me, not anybody else. So off market is typically the second step. To do that in PropStream, there's a section here called MLS, and if you click on that, it'll show you our MLS filters, and it's literally the first option. On market? No, don't want it on market. Second step that I see a lot of agents put in here is the equity. Properties could be high, negative, low, medium, right? So you got to make sure you let us know what type of equity you want. If you want negative equity, we can give you that. So you can go to our value and equity section right over here and apply negative numbers. But if you don't want a negative equity property, then let's avoid wasting marketing money and sending postcards to those properties or having conversations with them, because that's a waste of your time. So I'm looking for someone with at least 30% in equity or more. That way, the homeowner doesn't have to bring money to the table when we're selling their house. Okay. So, and they're going to get profit when we do sell the house. So, delinquency, why? Because either pay it, lose your house, or maybe it's time to sell. Off market, second step. Third step, I need equity so you don't have to bring table to or money to the table, and you're going to get profit when we do sell the property. And if a buyer does buy the property, again, there's equity to be made because I mean, if especially if it's like a cash transaction or something, right? So equity to made for a fix and flipper if they're interested in this listing. The final thing, the final thing I always emphasize is please let us know the property and owner type, and I'll give you my reasons why. You saw a few moments ago I clicked on a school. If you don't tell us you don't want that school, we're going to give it to you. There could be a school out there that didn't pay their taxes, right? I highly doubt it, but just throwing an idea out there. So if you don't want the school, the vacant land, the duplexes, the triplexes, go into our property details and let us know. Because as you can see right now, number one is an apartment. Unless you like apartments, great. But if you don't want the apartments, you don't want the condominiums, then let's go in here and say, hey, I'm looking for just single family residential. And you can see we went from 19,000 and we got 7,000 records immediately off our list. That would have been 7,000 phone calls and postcards you didn't need to have to send or take, right? So again, it's important that you tell us exactly the property details you want and even get granular. Like if you don't want mansions, then hey, under 4 bedrooms max. You know, if you want something that was recently built because you're working with fix and flippers, then hey, my fix and flippers want 1950 to properties built in 1990. Don't show me anything older or newer than that. Just keep it within that window. So property details is very important. And then owner information. You get to control who's going to call you back because the intention is I'm building a list I'm going to market to. Cause and effect. If I market to these property owners, or properties, someone's going to call me back. So you get to control who calls you back. And what I mean by that is, do you want individuals calling you back or corporate offices calling you back or a trust or whatever option we have here? Now, if you don't want a company calling you back or a trust calling you back, all you have to do is select individual. I'm looking for an individual, didn't pay their taxes, it's off market with equity. And the last advice I want to give you is years of ownership. Very important because um, it's very common for someone to just forget to pay their taxes, like number two, for example, who just bought their house 2 years ago. So I'm a new owner. Yay. Oh, wait, I have to pay taxes on a separate bill. Oh, I forgot to do that. Now they're on this tax list and it takes a whole year to get off it. So this person's probably not a true tax delinquent, just probably a new homeowner who just forgot. So let's change the story. I want not someone who bought it 2 years ago, but someone who's been in this house a minimum 10 years or more. Because now you can't use that excuse. Oh, I just bought it 2 years ago. No, 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 no. You bought this property in 2007 and you stopped paying your taxes. So something is happening financially with you. I don't know what it is, but as an agent, I'm going to be able to see if I could help you. But this address is perfect. Why? Because something happened. It's off market. It has my equity that I need to work with this owner and the property and owner type that I want. These are my 254 highly targeted leads in Phoenix. And the cool thing is, we're nationwide. So once you build your first list, you can literally just keep it that way and just change the zip code or the city. So I can go back to Aurora, Colorado, where we were just at, and see how many leads we have there. Okay, a lot more people not paying their taxes in that area. But as you can see, 2,700 leads are on the tax delinquent off market with equity and the property and owner type that we want. And that's how you would want to approach lead generation with PropStream. Don't go in there blindly. I would say at least follow these 4 steps. This will be at least the basis of your search. Anything extra you want to add, that's what we would call list stacking. I have users that are like, okay, well, this is great, but I don't like owners living in their house. Okay, that's a preference that you want. So go to owner information, and there's actually a filter for that. Owner occupancy, no. But I have to warn our users, if you want a non-owner occupied property or what we call absentee owner property, well, then these 617 non-owner occupied properties could be rental properties. Someone could be in there right now renting it out. So now you have to deal with that as an agent.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want that as an agent. Well, thankfully, we have vacant data. So now if you don't want the landlords with tenants, go back into owner information and there's a vacant button here. So I want it non-owner occupied. So owner occupied, no. And yes, I want it vacant. Nobody in that house. 29 tax delinquent non-owner occupied properties that are not answering their mail. There's no tenants in that house. So again, you could keep adding. Oh, you know what? Another motivator. They also have a mortgage on top. Why? Because now you're like losing money every month. So vacant, you're not there, and there's an open mortgage. What are you doing? Like you're losing money every month. How about I help you find a tenant or just sell the property for you? So that way you make profit instead of losing money every month on that open mortgage.
How often do
That's
you?
again, you don't have to do it that way, but that's what I meant by like extra steps. You can keep going if you want, but be careful because as you see, we went from like 200 leads down to 5. So you can get
Yeah.
very targeted, but the name of the game is a numbers game. So you don't want to add too many or too little filters. You want to find just the right batch of properties at the end of the day.
All right, two questions. One, how often do you update the data?
That's a great question. So there's 2 updates that occur. We update every day. So every day our company will ask all our different data providers, what do you have to offer? Unfortunately, they don't have everything every day, right? So for example, things like mortgage data comes once a month because people only pay a mortgage once a month, right? So you're not going to see an update every day on a property's mortgage data. That's usually once a month that gets updated. Pre-probate, we talked about that earlier, a deceased owner. We don't know when someone dies. So when someone passes away and we're able to connect that data with the title data that we have, then it appears on your screen as a new lead. So because there's so many different possibilities of leads that you can create, whether it's a deceased owner or a mortgage or a vacant property, we don't know when those updates can occur. So what we've done, again, we update every day. So we ask them, what do you have? What do you have? What we've done to counter that is created things like a save search feature. So once I create my, in this case, tax delinquent open mortgages, non-owner occupied vacant properties, Well, I don't know when the next one's going to appear. So let me save that search, right? Let me name that search, add my filtered details, and then I could set up an email notification. That way I don't have to run the search every hour or every day, which is what people are doing right now. Like they literally
Okay.
have post-its on their screen. You're probably not even using my product, but you probably have some post-its on your screen with some filters that you're using on another product. And that's okay, because that's what we had to do at one point. So as a team, we decided, well, how do we counter that? Save search notifications. Create whatever search you want, whether it's a buyer's list, a seller's list, then save that search and set up notifications, and then let us email you when that new update. So that way you're not sitting there trying to do research every day and wasting an hour on PropStream. You're using that hour to talk to homeowners and making phone calls. And then when you get an email from PropStream, then your next hour should be let's log in and see what those new records are. So we update every day. Our providers will give us what they have when they have it. But because we can't time it, that's when we had to set up notifications for you guys to use, essentially, in a good way. I want you to set up these notifications because I don't want you logging in every day to figure out what's coming in and what's not.
All right. That was question number one. Question number two, is there help if we sign up to help walk us through the system for our specific scenarios?
Yeah, we have customer support from Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. In terms of your specific scenarios, we can help in terms of helping you with like what strategy should you apply on these scenarios. That's not what we do. We again, we'll help you with the PropStream application. And if it's out of office hours, I would recommend going to our free academy. Again, this is free. You don't even have to have PropStream. You can just log in now with an email. The Academy has a bunch of webinar replays and courses for agents and courses for investors. So agent-focused courses, investor-focused courses. If not the Academy, if you're not like the online course type, that's me, by the way. I'm a resource library guy. Go to the resource library. We have a video library and we have really quick videos. Look at me with long hair. Anyhow, we have quick videos that you could take. This is me. Like I'm not the. I want to sit and take an online course, which is actually something I should start doing because at least for you guys, if you take an online course, we do giveaways, so you can win like free credits in your account and stuff like that. So there is some reasons to want to do that. But for me personally, I'm a video library guy. And then the last thing I love doing is the webinars. So for me, it's like video first, and then live webinars like what we're doing now, so I can ask questions on the spot, and then the online academy. So these resources are available to you. And the fourth one is just figure it out. I mean, that's another great way to do it. Just go in there and push all the buttons and see what happens. It's the only way, in my opinion, that you learn. The only button I won't suggest that you hit unless you know what you're doing is confirm order. You see confirm order and you don't know why, don't confirm that order. It's probably because you're in the campaign section ready to place a postcard. So just be careful with that stuff. But we do warn you when you're about to place a purchase on something. So just make sure you're not submitting any orders unless you want to do that.
All right. I like that. And then there is a question in comparison. What's the difference between Property Radar and PropStream?
That's a really good question. I've never used Property Radar. I've heard good things about them, and obviously I heard good things about us. And then I also hear bad things about us, and I also hear bad things about other products, right? This is a bad question to ask me personally because I've never used that product, and I don't think it's fair for any other product to talk about another product, especially in our space. My philosophy on this is, at the end of the day, Property Radar and PropStream are really just trying to help you find a homeowner that needs your help, right? And so I would say the differences are probably going to be user interface. I don't know what theirs look like, so I would log in and see what user interface like sits well with you. And another thing to note too, um, stare at it for a few minutes. Like let your screen on for like 5, 10 minutes, because remember, you're going to be in this product for hours sometimes. So you don't want something that's going to like not sit well. And so one of the things that we get praised upon is our user interface being friendly and approachable. Second thing I would recommend is do a data comparison. And here's the best way I would do it, because I've compared data when we're looking at a competition or whatever. Or as a consumer, this is how I would do it. First thing when it comes to comparing data is go to both products or all 5 products if you're doing like 5 different comparisons and do 2 things. One, search the same address on every single product. And then what you want to do is look at the details. that the companies are providing you. Because the more information you have, the better. Like if you know that this owner has multiple properties, great. Because when they say, no, I'm not interested in selling this house, you could pivot and say, well, what about the house off Purdue? What about the house off Coolidge? Right? So I see that that house is vacant off Uvalde. Do you need a tenant to help you with that property? Right? So this is again valid information. Another thing, mortgage. Hey, so you have a vacant property with the mortgage on it. Is there any way I can help you find a tenant for that property so it can go back into cash flow? So that's the first comparison I would do. Search an address on all the platforms and then just compare the data. And hey, you never know. Maybe you might need two of them. You might, oh, hey, you know what? PropStream has mortgage data, PropStream has link data, but this other product has this data that PropStream doesn't have. And I need that when we're doing our exit strategy for whatever that exit strategy is, wholesaling or, it being an agent or buying the note or whatever, right? There's so many different strategies. So I don't know what data is important to you, but that's the first comparison. Run a property search and look at the data. Second comparison is this: go into their search filters and see what options you have. Because again, mathematically, the more options you're given, the more you can provide yourself, right? And another thing that you should also hone in on is, are they forcing you to pick a list? So one thing that we stayed away from a few years ago is we didn't want people to be forced to choose a list. Why is that important? Because if I don't have to choose a list anymore, I can do this. Go to Aurora right now, find me all the single family properties. Notice how I skipped the list area, right? So find me all the residential single family properties that are off market, that are owned by individuals. You see, I'm creating my own list here, right? So they're owned by individuals for like 10 years and they live there. And here's the motivation that I want. I want someone who has an open mortgage, one, and their interest rate is like 10% or higher. You know how many millions of Americans have high interest rates that
Yeah.
probably should sell and get a low interest rate today? This is a list that you can create because we're not forcing you to pick a list. So something to note is that with PropStream's immense amount of filters, you can create these unique situations like, hey, who has a high rate in the market? Because they probably are working two jobs and they don't know rates are at 7 or 6% right now.
It's
So
crazy.
I could save them a few $100s, right? That could be a motivated seller. And this is something I have to explain to people. Like when I said interest rates, everyone here already knew what number that it was at. But there are, again, millions of people that aren't real estate professionals like we are. And they probably don't know rates are lower than the 10% rate that they got. And I'm curious, when did this person get their 10% rate? Back in, oh, this is recently. Okay, maybe I should have put a loan origination date. That's probably my mistake there. Open mortgage date. There we go. Let's go back all the way to 2020. So let's find everyone from 2015 or before. Let's do that. Let's do 10 years or before. All right, we're down to 22. So you see this homeowner here has a mortgage from over 10 years ago, several of them actually, and they're pretty high rates. This one's high. Again, this person's you're leveraged. You have three mortgages. One financial situation that doesn't go in your favor, you are over leveraged. I think now is the time to perhaps consider selling. But these are the things that you can do with our application. So those are the two ways I would compare: search an address, look at the details side by side, see which ones give you more. And again, you might need to put them together to benefit your strategy. But then when it comes to the search engine, look at all the filter options, because the more filters you have, the more you can create. And if they don't force you to pick a list, even better. That means you have the luxury of just crafting your own situation at the end of the day.
And
Okay.
Burton, last question here as you wrap up. What type of information do we get? Do we get phone numbers, emails besides the address, or do we just get address
You'll
and
get
other?
the address and mailing address by default. And then if you want the phone number, we actually have to skip trace the list. So it's within PropStream, but there is a cost to it. It's a la carte, so you don't have to use it or not. And there's
Perfect.
no minimum order. So you can skip trace one property that suits your needs or whatever. The price of skip tracing is 12 cents an address. And we will not charge you the 12 cents if nothing comes back. So if I were to skip trace this list, my results will appear in the contacts list right over here. And just to give you guys a quick look at it, not only will you get the phone numbers, but at no additional cost, we'll also show you who's on the do not call list as well. Now, whether you decide to approach them or not, that's up to you. But 12 cents an address, you don't get charged if nothing comes back. So you can keep those 12 cents when that happens. And then we will show you who's on the do not call list
That's perfect.
at no additional cost.
All right. And then
So
for those
yes.
of you who have questions for Burton, how do people get a hold of you? Because there's a whole bunch of questions.
Well, if you need help with the product itself, don't wait for me. Call customer support and let me put the email and contact number for that in the chat. And then if you just need to get a hold of me or just want to follow me, social media, just look up Burton Alicando. That's my last name. It spells all I can do with one L. So just spell all I can do with one L. That's my last name. And
Excellent.
these are the best ways to get a hold of our company or to get in contact or connect with me.
I'm
Monica,
looking.
great question. She asked, how much is the program? It's $97 a month. So make sure you click on Tristan's link, or when you guys sign up, put Tristan's name on there so you guys get his discount. You will get a 7-day trial period. So please take advantage of that. What I would do, again, especially if you're in the research phase, is use that 7-day trial period to look at the properties in your market, see what data you have, and then the filters. And then just play with the filters. Whatever you can build, that's going to be important. So screw around, and then if you're strong and confident with it, then I would suggest following through. If not, just call or cancel your subscription.
Canada, you
You
guys.
check one by one the DNC list. Well, we run the list through the DNC, but Monica, the one thing that you have to understand is it's nobody's list is ever perfect because, for example, we could have ran the DNC list yesterday morning, but this morning someone could have put their phone number on the DNC list, right? So like no one's ever 100% perfect, but yeah, we do run the list actively and we do it every day. But there could be someone who just is fed up with phone calls this morning, and so nothing's live. That's the reality. And that's again, it happens with some of your records too. You could be calling an address this morning and they're like, oh, just signed a contract with that brokerage down the street, right? And nobody has that info right then and there. So it's never going to be 100% perfect. This is why you'll see people still say 90% accurate in terms of their data and contact information. We never say any percentages because it just doesn't look good at the end of the day when you throw out a percentage, because then people have unrealistic expectations at the end of the day.
I like that. All
Yeah,
right,
the
Bert.
numbers provided are already checked, Monica. That's correct. Yeah. And again, I don't know if you saw my screen a few moments ago, but when you get your results, like what I'm doing now, you can see that whatever this person has, what, 8 numbers that came back? Yeah. 2 of them have been flagged for DNC. This person got 6 numbers, 5 numbers that came back. 2 of them got flagged for DNC. So yeah, we do run that. But again, I mean, this number today could have been on the list. So you always have to at least approach it with some sense of, try lightly, essentially.
I like that. And yes, it's recorded. Just put up the link there. Burton, I followed you on Instagram. Everyone else, thanks for being on. Burton, you did a great job, man. Thank you for explaining all that.
Thank you for hosting. You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for having me.